afternoon, good evening. Welcome, new and old viewers, to the Bakery Podcast. If this is your first time viewing or listening, let me give you some intel. And no, before you ask, we are not making bread. The Bakery is a show in which I invite some of the biggest personalities, ranging from players, coaches, managers and content creators, to talk their career, their life, their interests and more. The intent is to give you, the listener, the opportunity to have some insight into what the ever-changing ecosystem of esports really entails. If you like competitive gaming, I promise you're going to like it here. Now, if you prefer to catch your podcast on the go, search the Bakery Podcast on Apple Music, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and hit the follow button to never miss an upload. Without further ado, let's get into today's show. Right, we're live. Lovely. Good to go. Right, today guys, I'm joined by Esports Full Package, a former professional Halo player, a presenter, a natural host and a fine caster with a beard, in my opinion, worthy of magazines, to be fair. Miles Ross, how are you, sir?
Mate, I'm fucking great now. What gas that was. Shit, I forgot to ask about swearing.
Yeah, you're fine.
That... Yeah, good. Good, mate. Really good. Really
That's
good.
good
I'm very, very grateful to be here, man. Thanks for having me on. You've got some premium guests on here.
I've done all right so far, I guess. Not done too bad.
Yeah, you've done all right.
Yeah, I think, mainly it's just because I started it as like a little hobby back toward the end of January this year. Just for amateur players, mainly. It was like an amateur scene kind of insight because I just wanted to know what most AMs got up to. And then in London, February, at CDL, I just got sitting with Hector for a couple of days in the crowd, got a bit drunk. I was a bit loud and rowdy, don't get me wrong. Definitely had a few beers. But Hector followed me on Twitter. And then from there, I DM'd him, was like, look, I'll run a podcast. It's tiny, but you got to shoot your shot sometimes. Do you want to be a guest? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, I wasn't expecting that answer. So
that is incredible.
Yeah, so from there, really, it's just kind of grown. Obviously, as each new name comes on, it tends to hold more weight for the future guests. So it's just kind of rolled like that, I suppose.
Mate, they're not even humble beginnings. Like, it's a really honest story, and I think Hector picked up on something special there, which is wicked. So yeah, and also I do want to say, like, obviously with London coming up this weekend, it is heartbreaking to see the state of the world that we can't go back to London, we can't go back to that crowd. I can't go back to see my family. Like, it's just, there's so much around this hurts and it's shit. Yeah. But we appreciate all the fans, man. Really, like everyone here, and it's real. It's a weird thing to be going through right now with COVID and all that. But yeah, I agree. Yeah, missing London.
Me too. I was like super excited. I remember we were leaving London in February and we were already looking at like where to book up. We were like looking at everywhere. We were like, what are we booking? Where are we going? Like, let's get there 2 days early. We'll go on a proper bender. Like, everything was good. It was brilliant, man. I really February was incredible for me. It was the first COD event I've attended though, because from what I heard, the London last year was better. According to a lot of people.
Yeah, I can see why. Like the way they set up the crowd and all that. Like, it was much more like a pit. Like, it was more, we were all crammed into one end. There wasn't enough seats for everyone. Yeah. It got really rowdy. And I don't know whether they had more beer or what, but like,
it definitely looked like it. It looked crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I remember at the end of this event, at the end of the last London event, I couldn't get more than 4 pints. Whereas at the last one, I went up and down like 3 or 4 times with like trays, just being like, "There's one for you, little boy. Let's see if it might be one for you." Like, it was nuts. But like this time, I don't know what it was. Maybe we ran out quicker because everyone was like, "We're going for it." I don't know. It's weird.
It did look good. It looked like a lot of testosterone in a big area. That's what it looked. Just like a load of testosterone, a load of beer, a lot of fun. Yeah. Yeah,
it was bad. It was really bad.
So I've got an icebreaker question for you. I ask every guest the same question. It's kind of a way for me to judge your character, especially your palate, and it'll tell me if we ever go for lunch together, basically. I need to know your top 5 crisp flavours.
Oh, top 5 crisps of all time.
Yeah,
I'll do it in. Top 5.
You don't have to order it properly. You could just say these are all what I'd say are the best crisps.
Okay, I can say for me, without a shadow of a doubt, my favourite crisps of all time, Twiglets, and that. I know I know. Let me get it out there. I know. I love them. I like my Marmite. I love them. But I know that's the one that's the outlier. I'll get that out of the way, right? Love my Twiglets. Like my mini cheddars. Nothing wrong with a mini cheddar. Same while I'm still on the cheese vibe. What's It's a Good still. And then I'm thinking now, or what else? Is it like salt and vinegar is always good. Nothing wrong with salt and vinegar. Oh, mate, I don't eat many crisps these days. The crisps in America are shocking.
I can't.
Wiglets, come at me. That's it. Come at me. The chat's going mad.
I cannot believe you've just said Twiglets. I cannot believe I've just.
No one here. Not a single person here. Tunny's there.
Yeah, they're absolutely awful, mate. They're so bad.
I like Marmite though. I like Marmite on my toast. I'm a real strong savoury palate. That's the way I like to do it, mate. I'm not a big fan of sweet things at all. Yeah. That's me, mate. I mean, those big tubs from Sainsbury's, those big like tubs with the red lid, whole thing, and it just like sitting. My fingers are like sticky and like jet black by the end of it. Like,
you know, Dylan Mad Cat.
Yeah.
Mad Cat was like one of my first guests, and I remember asking him his top 5 crisps, and he was like, "Oh, ready salted, you know," and I was like, "What?"
Oh, jeez.
I was like, "Ready salted, mate? You could." Hold on. He said ready salted, and he's comfortably held the worst like badge for like crisp flavors, and you've just snatched it, mate. You snatched it right off him. You're wearing it proudly as well. Twiglets, mate. Twiglets. Okay.
They're the bomb. They're the absolute shit for me. They are the best.
All right. We'll never.
It's a treat. It's a treat out here as well because they're well expensive. You got to go to like the special part of the supermarket.
Yeah.
To the foreign section.
Yeah. We'll never.
Right next to like Iron Brew and like.
We'll never go on a picnic. Never. We'll never go on a picnic.
Sorry, mate. I'm sorry. I'm not bringing. I'll feed you other things. I'm not going to give you like
Oh right. Just want to get into a bit of Miles history. So, what kind of got you into gaming originally?
Mate, gaming. Like day one. So I'm part of a massive family, like massive family. Both mum and dad are one of 6. So it's a horde of people. And basically, my earliest memories of gaming was like Super Nintendo, like my uncles and my dad playing like Street Fighter and shit, like games like that. A lot of Super Mario Brothers, like early stuff. But I remember watching them be like competitive, playing Street Fighter against each other, and just watching the game and being like, I don't know what it was. Maybe it's just like I liked the flashing lights or whatever as a kid, but that really got me into it. And then one day, like I remember picking it up and like having watched them for like a year or whatever. One day I picked it up and I worked out the buttons, and just smashed them, and that was pretty much it. But it did become it was really like it was those early games, like really early games that got me into it. I remember the first game that I was like seriously competitive on, where I was like, I'm going to be the best at this, and I don't give a shit. There's a leaderboard, there's game battles, whatever. Way back in the day, a game called Killzone on the PlayStation, like Killzone 1.
I remember it. Yeah,
mate, it wasn't a good game at all, but it was the first time like I came across like-minded players, and especially as a shooter as well. And like that was it. After that, it became Halo, and it became very serious and a proper addiction. But yeah, that was what really got me into it.
I mean, would you say you were quite competitive from a young age, or was it the world of gaming that kind of gave you an avenue to develop that competitive nature?
Yeah, like sports were always a thing. I mean, I never loved sports. Like I don't know whether I was bored. Like I've always had a bit of an ADD brain. Sports were like I moved a lot as a kid. Like my mum and dad, like dad's from London, mum's from Scotland. We lived in London for a long time. We went out to the US for a bit. My dad had a job with DreamWorks. He went out. My dad used to produce comedy, and he was basically his like business partner was Lee Evans. This was before Lee was like
one
massive.
of my favorite comedians ever.
He's brilliant, isn't he? He's great. So this is a long.
I saw him on his last tour, a Monsters tour. I went and watched him. Yeah, I was there the night he recorded for the DVD.
Oh, yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, so we went out to the US with Lee Evans and his family and tried to like break America. So we lived in California for a bit, not too far from where I am now, which is weird. Like we've been to my old school, went to all that. Yeah. So we moved around loads. We settled in England for a long time. Well, I mean, when I was like from 10 onwards, we're only in the US for like 3 years. Settled in like south of England. And it was like went to a place. I went to Seaford College in Petworth, and at Seaford played a lot of cricket, a lot of football. Not as much football, but a lot like hockey, like grass hockey. So I played those a bit, and I think I was just always at this point in time, like sports were alright, but I had computer games, like I had Halo to play, or anything like Smash Brothers, like whatever I could play against my mates, and it did just drive me insane. Where I just was obsessed with smashing my friends.
Yeah.
And whatever it was, like I was always trying to be the funniest bloke in the room. I was always trying to be the smartest bloke. I just always trying to be number one, like whatever I was doing. Which also made me a lazy bastard, like a really lazy git. Because like, if I can't be number one, I'm not going to put anything into it whatsoever. Like zero, you get zero. Unless I'm the best, I'm not interested. Or if I can be the best, so that was a weird one. But Yeah, man. So that was it. It was games mostly games. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you say you were quite comedic from a young age then? I mean, did you feel like you possessed traits of an entertainer from early on?
I was always a shy kid, like really, really shy. Like again, being a part of a massive fam. Obviously, my whole family on both mum and dad's side, in some way, shape, or form, work in television or the entertainment industry. Almost
Yeah.
all of them. There's one or two outliers, but almost everyone. Um, so like yeah, like Christmas at grandma's. Grandma's telling funny stories. God rest her soul. She's telling the same story she's told 20 times, but like it's still fun, you know. And all my other uncles, like all of them are funny. Like Jonathan's a big funny bloke. Obviously, Paul's mad, but he's a funny bloke. And even my dad's hilarious. Like they're all hilarious, and everyone is trying to one up each other constantly. Everyone is trying to get a laugh in, get a joke in, be the funniest, loudest bloke in the room. So I think seeing that, and even my aunt's hilarious. Even seeing that, I think from a young age, it was always you. If you want to be heard in the big family, if you want any attention, you got to be funny.
Yeah.
And I think I can safely say, like all my cousins, everyone is nuts. They're all loud. They're all trying to be, we're all quite outlandish, almost all of us. So yeah, like I think it was almost like competition, not to like get fed or anything. Like it wasn't like the loudest one of you gets to have dinner. It was just like to get any sort of attention or have like a have a laugh. You did have to be a bit big, and I think it took a long time for me to get there. But yeah, it's always been something that I've thought about, and I've always been surrounded by comedy. Like again, it was dad's profession, so every other day he was bringing home DVDs or whatever. I remember
Yeah.
burning through DVDs for most of my teenage life, whether it was film, TV, stand-up specials. Like, just love it, love it.
Yeah. So how did Halo come to fruition?
So I remember I picked it up purely by chance. Like one of my mates got the first Xbox back when we were little boys, and he was like, "Come over here, let's play it." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And at this point in time, like I was playing Killzone, and I remember getting on Halo and just being like, "This is the best game I've ever imagined." Like could not even fathom something that looked so good, felt so good. It was like little movie references that I loved as a kid. Like there was like jokes from aliens in there and shit like that. And I was like, "Okay, this is the greatest thing that's ever been created. This is it. This is the number one." And it just like this was Halo 1. Like this just like completely and utterly it just took over every single part of my brain at all times. Like I'd go back to school and I wasn't playing it, and I'd be drawing the maps, or I'd be drawing like the Master Chief and all the guns in there. I mean, I loved like comics and art and all that stuff. So I'd just spend all my time doing that. And then when I didn't actually have my own Xbox until Halo 2 came out. So like Halo 1 was something that really had me, and like we would LAN every day. So my best mate James, his dad was our deputy headmaster at school, which was wicked. It was a bit like being in the mafia. Like you were a made man, you were protected, you were safe, nothing could happen to you, because like if you ever got in trouble, he'd see you and he'd be like, "All right, what have you done?" And we'd be like, "Yeah, we were fucking," it was a bit cheeky. So that was a bad thing, turning me into a twat. But we played every day. We'd LAN every day. Like we had an Xbox in school.
Yeah.
That's a deadly combo. So like we'd run out of maths. We'd all sprint as fast as we could, like out of maths or physics, wherever it was. We'd run in as fast as we could to get to his home first. He'd open the door and we'd bolt in there, and it was like, who could get the official Xbox controller? No one wanted the shitty Mad Cat third-party one or whatever that didn't have like a thumbstick. The right thumbstick was all worn down. It was just like a spike. You shove your thumb on and it was shit to play. But we would LAN every day. Like we would honestly play every single day. Which wasn't good for school, obviously, but it was wicked for me and my mates. We had a lovely time, and that was it, man. Once I got my own Xbox, though, right around the time of my GCSEs, fucked everything up. Mum and dad don't know this, but it was like as soon as they leave the house, they'd be like pretending to study. As soon as they left, I was like, "Fucking Xbox out!" I knew where they hid the cable. Let's get it straight online. That was a proper addiction, though. That was like a true addiction, and there's no doubt in my mind when I think about people who talk about drug addiction, gambling addiction, any form of addiction, I totally sympathize, because I'm like, it does truly capture every single part of your waking mind. And it's the same with a lot of people. Like when anyone's really driven to do something, it's the only thing you can think about, and it affects relationships. It hurts your physical health, and some ways your mental health. Like you name it. Like I didn't leave the fucking house for as long as I possibly could, man. I was deep. I was really, really deep, and it took like an intervention from my dad to be like, "I haven't seen you in a long time, mate. Can you stop playing, get through school, and get on with this?" And because I was like, "I want to go to MLG. I want to do it." And I was a good player, but like I wasn't winning anything. I wasn't making any money. So like that time of my life was a bit like, it was good because I put the reps in and I got pretty good at the game, but it was affecting my life in a really negative way.
Yeah, I can imagine. So on the flip side of that, I'm going to ask you why you stopped playing it altogether. Would it be that reason there? I mean, what pushed you to make the move from playing to becoming the host and presenter caster that we know now?
Yeah, so like in and amongst the Halo 2 and Halo 3 games, like so 2 I was pretty good at that, never won anything. On Halo 3, like I became a pro. Like I joined I was part of the very first team Dignitas, like
Yeah.
way back in the day. I
Was that
still
when
pre-Twitch.
did OD own it back then?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
OD owned it back then, which is mad because like when I rocked up to the Minnesota launch weekend and OD was there, he was like, "Oh, Mars, how you doing?" I was like, "What are you doing here? Like, how have we come full circle?" So that was mad. That was wicked. But yeah, so I was a pro on Halo 3. We won a fair amount. Like mum and dad were happy for a bit. They were like, "Oh, cool, you're actually making something of this." Like, and that was amazing for my relationship with my parents and that because not everyone gets to do that. Not everyone gets to go from you're spending a lot of time on this, mate. What are you doing with your life to be able to go? No, I'm making it. I'm on TV. We were on X League TV and we won 10 grand and it was amazing.
Yeah.
And my dad watched that and fucking we bonded over it in a big way because he was like he understood then and it was an amazing moment in my life. But when I was basically when I went to university, so I went to uni. Went to University of East Anglia in Norwich. Thought it was wicked time. Had a really good time up there. Made some amazing friends. I met my wife. Or I met her now. Or I met her at the very end of it, who's now my wife. But yeah, at the time, like I was just, I think I was just living life, man. I was having a good time, and it was tough because like that was around the same time as some massive tournaments like World Cyber Games represented Great Britain. We lost to like the Canadians who won the whole thing, and they won like 30K. And it's probably a good thing because if I had won 30K at 20 years old or 21 years old, I might be dead now. I don't know. I don't know.
That's a lot of minutes on a babe station phone call.
You know what I mean? That's like 2 days solid.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
easy.
That'd have been mad.
Yeah.
So and again, like being at university was really cool. Like I made loads of really great friends. Like I had a girlfriend at the time, and it was just like I couldn't put the same amount of time into the game. And at that same time, like you know what it's like. There's always some young kids coming up, and I'm like 20 years old at this point, maybe 21. And the kids who are coming up are like 16 and they're fucking sick. Yeah. And it's like, I've got to be grinding it out. And, you know, and it just came to the point where I couldn't put the time in. And I was really honest with my teammates. I was like, boys, I'm so sorry. I can't do this. And they were a bit like, yeah, you're shit anyway. And I was like, what the fuck? What are you talking about? So let that go. And I became a coach for a bit, and that was crap. It was dead boring. But I just never wanted to leave the scene because I love gaming. So I really love gaming. And yeah, man, got into commentary from that. Basically, grabbed the mic. You know, this is like a handheld mic. Walking around behind the players and just chatting shit to my mates. That's really what it was. And we're having a lot of fun. Because again, I was quite outspoken. I was a former pro. Like it was all the right things. And that became like a sort of pseudo commentary job. Like you can look at the old EGL VODs. Like back when it was called ECL as well. Like I was in Blackpool, I was at the Norbrec. You know, I've been a part of all this, but I was just on the Halo side for so long. And eventually, like towards the sort of end of that, like towards the end of Halo Reach, like I moved to Australia, and that was it. And that's really why I stopped all of it. Like I put everything down after that.
Right, I've got a bit of cast trivia for you. First bit.
Oh shit!
First little installment of cast trivia. Okay, it's quite interesting. This is because. I mean, usually I'm picking trivia for players, so it's easy to go into their history that they've done here and there on whatever, you know. But it's a bit different. So, COD XP 2016. Grand finals were between Splice and MV. Okay. Yep. Maven and Mr. X did cast that final. But I'm assuming you were there spectating.
Oh, mate, front row.
Yeah, right.
Actually, front row, I think. I've got
Map 1 player went on a 10 kill streak early on. Do you remember who?
John.
Oh, fuck.
I'll never forget it, man. I'll never forget it. It was my first event. I'll never forget it. And I remember watching John and just being like, he is out of his fucking mind, man. And it was sick.
Yeah, it was.
Sick. And I remember we were just, and the crowd, like, I'd never experienced it in games before. Because I've been to football matches, you know, I've been to, even cricket. Cricket's not that exciting, but like football matches are mental. And I remember being in that environment. I was like, because that was my first overseas event. I was like, this is fucking sick. That was my first COD event as well. It was nuts, man. I'd known the game for like 2 or 3 weeks before that.
I bet it felt great. Yeah.
It was wicked. I was like, this is all right. We're in the dressing room where the Rolling Stones were here a couple of weeks before. Snoop Dogg's over there. COD's fucking sick.
It's crazy, isn't it? How much of a... I think one thing that lockdowns taught a lot of people is just how many celebrities have very similar interests in terms of gaming to everyone else. Do you know what I mean? Like we've seen the likes of, you know, Trent and all these footballer guys come through and play Warzone with loads of personalities in the scene, and it's crazy how it's all coming around. So, I mean, getting into that world of casting, was the transition easy? I mean, what traits do you feel you already possessed that helped you slide into the world?
So, like the traits, the initial traits were obviously like game knowledge, like being able to call what was going on and knowing the players and knowing the game inside out. Like again, it was my life for so long. Like that really, really helps because all of a sudden I've got the bloke who's like, I'm not the play-by-play at this point in time. I'm the color caster,
Yeah.
and this was before that was even a thing. So like knowing the shit inside out really, really helped.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I feel like you do. I feel like you don't have to be a great player to be a great commentator, but you have to know the game. You have to have experienced the situations in game in order to explain what's happening. You know,
Yeah.
it's not good enough to just be like, you know, oh, they did all these things. It's like, well, what was the important thing there? What was the thing that really mattered? You know, you don't really get that without playing the game. So that was the immediate thing that got me in. The thing that really got me into COD, or what got me, really got me into COD, was not my game knowledge
Yeah.
at all. Like as I said, like COD XP was my first ever event. I started casting COD halfway through the Black Ops 3 season, and I did like the the Australian leg of the Call of Duty World League, so their
Yeah.
pro league. And that was like, it was me and a Maniac. It was wicked. I basically got like poached from Halo at the time. So I made like a bit of a weird comeback. Did the Halo World Championships, the first one, the good one, the one without the balloons. It was wicked. But and Activision came to me and they were like, "Hey man, we really, really like your work. We'd love for you to work in the Australian side of this." And I was like, I don't know I'm not gonna lie to you boys. I don't know shit about Call of Duty. The last Call of Duty I played was like Black Ops 1. I never played Black Ops 2. Never even played Black Ops 2. I know it's everyone's favorite. I've never even played it. It was just a part of my life where like there was no games. I just didn't game. I was living in Sydney, you know, running every day, going to the gym, and you know, just like shrimp on the barbie and all that. It was just a different time in my life. And when they turned to me and they were like, "Yeah, can you do Black Ops 3?" And I was like, "They're up to 3? What the fuck?" And I was very honest. I was very, very honest. I was like, "I don't know anything at all about the players, the history, the tournament, the game, anything. And you want me to be involved in this?" And they were like, "Yes." I was like, "Well, you lot are sick in the head, but let's do it." Because I got a PlayStation and I grind it out. And at the first cast, I remember the very, very first cast ever, I was like, "I don't know anything." And I mean, anything. I couldn't have told you the MV4 apart from the fucking K-bar. I couldn't have. And it was like, oh no, that was Infinite Warfare. See, couldn't tell you anything, like anything. But I was well excited to be there. And obviously, as a first-person shooter, you kind of pick it up. So first cast was a lot of bumbling, and just being like, "That's a nice gun he's got there," you know, like just shit, dog shit. Like not bad because I can still present and all that, but like game knowledge zero, rock bottom. And obviously, ever since then, it's gone better. But that honesty really got me into it, and that. The angle that I had was basically being a comic. At the time in Australia, I was doing a fair bit of stand-up, and I did a ton of improv comedy. So there's a lot of like, you can actually learn how to become an improviser. So people are like, "Oh, improv, you just make it up." Like comedians go on stage like, "Whose line is it anyway?" That sort of thing, and they'll literally just go up and make it up. And then you make these little scenes, you make these stories, you make these jokes. But there is a lot of technique to that. There's so much you learn. You know, there are books written on this. I spent good part of like 2 years being a part of this school and learning and performing in pubs and clubs and theaters across Sydney and having a wicked time. And it really did help turn me from this sort of like shy, slightly funny, you know, gamer into a person who can go up on stage in a pub in front of people who don't know him and frankly don't want to know him and try to win them over. And that skill, there's all the abilities that came with that, like joke writing, not being afraid to fail, not being afraid to get shit on or laughed at, or like you know, the good side of being laughed at as well. All those skills really, really help. So when I rocked up, you could put me with anyone now, and I'm just like, let's go, let's do it, let's have a great show. No matter I'm going to make sure you're okay, you're going to make sure I'm okay. Let's party, let's do it. And that was one thing I think Activision saw early on, and they were like, we can put this dude with anyone, and it'll be fine. And so far so good.
Indeed, I agree. Were there any entertainers, hosts, or other commentators from other sports or media that you watched and indulged in to learn from during the early stages?
Yeah, man. So I never thought to myself like, I'm going to be a commentator. But when I look back at my influences over the years, like comedy's obviously a big one. Again, the idea of like what a comedian does comes up. You've got every 3 seconds, you've got to do something good, otherwise they're out. They've dialed out. You know, when you think of like the best comedians in the world, almost everything that comes out of their mouth is hilarious. So like trying to apply that logic there. So when I look back at my influences, it's mostly comedy. Obviously, like commentator wise, Jim Ross from the WWE.
Yeah,
Jim's one of the greatest, man. Like no one gets you more excited by saying like 2 or 3 words. Like he can just say someone's name, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, the goosebumps. You're like, ah, you know. And he's one of those dudes that gets it. And I think about wrestling commentators in general. They worked every single night, day in, day out, across the country. They're traveling. They're constantly working. They're constantly writing new bits. And I was like, that work ethic is insane. Because there's a lot of commentators from a lot of games who just they'll say the same thing time and time again, and I'm like, come on, man! Like the audience can hear that. Like show them some respect. Show them that you care about this as well, and that you're putting in the work. And I think a lot of people don't do that, but he was one of my big influences. I once said, like, there's a British comedian called Stuart Lee. Stuart Lee, like, really, really dry. He's not very famous, but if you Google him now, like, he's just such a dry bastard.
Yeah.
It's a really acquired sort of sense of humor, but he was one of my greatest influences. And honestly, when I think of like comedy, not comedy, but like commentary style, like presenting styles, this is a weird one, right? You might have to Google this, but you remember The Fifth Element, the movie The Fifth Element?
Yeah, Bruce Willis.
Yeah. Do you remember Ruby Rod?
Yeah.
It was Chris Tucker's character, like Ruby Rod, like that like mad energy. He was one of my sort of like weird inspirations, because I was always like that, like you can't help but look and listen. Like he's nuts. He's almost like a front man for a band, and I was like, I quite liked how insane he was. So those are some of the weird influences that I was like, that's what I want to merge all that shit together, and that's Miles.
That's cool. I like it.
It's difficult to do that, man.
Are there any current kind of casters that's active in esports that you take some learnings from?
Oh god, yeah. I mean, I learn something new from Maven all the time. Like Clint's a fucking force of nature. Like he's a massive bloke in real life. He's very loud.
Yeah,
I've got
a picture with him. I've got a picture.
Huge, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm 6'3". I'm a strong man. Like I pull trucks, and I stood next to him, and I was like, you're fucking big. Like, why are you this big?
Bloke,
yeah, because you looking at just his bald head all the time. You're just like, you don't get to kind of assess how big he actually is. But standing next to him, I was like, what the fuck? Like, this bloke is massive.
He's a big dude, and he's got a big heart as well. Like Maven, I know he comes across as a bit of a nutcase sometimes, but like he's got a lot of love, and he's got a lot of time for his co-workers. I try and learn from everyone, but I think when I think truly about like who I look at in the gaming world, and I'm like, you're fucking great, and I like you a lot. Henry G from CS:GO scene. Okay. I've actually spent a lot of time with Henry in person. He's a really lovely bloke. I've got a lot of love for him, a lot of time for him. He came to Sydney. We worked together at the IEM events there. Like I was one of the crowd. I was like one of the hosts. Which was pretty cool, and I spent a lot of time with Henry there, and he's a really, really lovely bloke. And again, from that scene, OJ Borge, like I think, again, as a presenter, as someone who's just got so much energy, who can seemingly talk about anything for hours and hours on end, like OJ is one of those people, like a real force of nature, and he's a massive bloke as well. Got a thing for big boys. I think Josh has always got a thing for the tall lads. And yeah, from other games, I mean, I don't really follow too many other esports that closely. I really like fighting games for a long time. As a fighting game commentator, IFC Yipes. Who does a lot of Street Fighter stuff, does a lot of Marvel vs. Capcom, and he's just got this amazing energy, man, amazing personality. Like, and he really, like, not only do you feel like you're so entertained, you're so like engaged with everything that's going on, but like he also takes you on that journey. He takes you on, the educational side of it. So like, if you don't know what the fuck's going on, you probably don't. He's going to be there to make sure you're having a good time and you're learning something. So like that attitude, I think, is really important when it comes to commentating.
No, I agree. I mean, on the flip side of that, obviously, you're actively learning all the time, I suppose. What skills have you optionally chose to develop to enhance your own output?
That's a fancy question. What actual skills? I mean, analysis is really important. I've got a history degree. I did history at university, so I'm like, I love to look at something from the big picture, and I'm like, what is the thing that really made the difference? And trying to do that in commentary is difficult. Like this Modern Warfare is honestly a bit of a nightmare to commentate at times. 5v5 is a fucking headache. I'm not going to lie to you.
I can imagine.
There's basically 10 things on the map at any given moment that can have an impact on something. So keeping an eye on all that's difficult. Let alone when there's flags, let alone when there's a bomb. It's a bit nuts. So that's been difficult. I think the biggest thing for me is like with this game in particular, like talking to players really helps. Talking to players really helps. Talking to coaches as much as I can. That is where I do most of my learning in this game, because there's only so much I can play, to understand like the most extreme fundamentals and understand like how weapons work and like what should have been an easy gunfight or what wasn't, that sort of thing. Like it's real nuance, but not getting bogged down in that is another skill. It's really easy to end up talking about like how someone's recoil control fucked them up in a fight. But like, does that make a difference overall? Like, and that's a lot of thing that commentators do is we get so narrow on what we can see, like where it's the kill feed, whether it's some fight, and just trying to pull yourself out of that and never forget that whoever's watching this, they might be max rank, max prestige, die hard on the Reddit every day, chatting mad shit, or it's your lads and dads who have just gone, oh, I quite like COD. I've accidentally found this and here to learn something. So like, I'm here to just enjoy this. So it's really that the greatest skill I've got is just reminding myself that at any given moment, there's someone watching who knows fuck all.
Yeah,
and you've got to help them out.
I think that was quite notable during this year's introduction. Sorry, to kind of the gameplay overview. So, for example, at London, I don't know. I mean, London was the first event I saw. I'm assuming it happened at Minnesota too, but I didn't catch Minnesota. I didn't watch the event. But I know in London we had kind of search and destroy, and this is the aim of the game, and this is what we do, and this is where the bomb sites are, and this is the ultimate goal. And a lot of people are like, why have we got this? Do you know what I mean? People that watch COD know all this already, but a lot of the time, from a competitive standpoint, most competitive players are a lot more advanced than your average lad and dad, just like you said, and so there's a lot more insight to be given to them.
Another thing that's funny about that is like I talk to a lot of fans at events. I love talking to fans. I love talking to folks. And a lot of time, like, no offense, because I know you're out there, but I meet a lot of them who don't have a fucking clue what's going on. Yeah. I get tweets from people who don't have a fucking clue. Like, you don't understand why it's important to rotate, or why, like, that kill was really important. And obviously, I've got a chance to back me up and be like, this is what really is important. But, like, just trying to educate the general audience. Like, not to say that diehards don't get it, but, like, the diehards obviously get it. But there's a lot of people out there that sort of just see the lad with 50 kills. Or
100%.
Sim's got 50 kills. We're like, yeah, that's okay, but like, what really makes the difference is X, Y, Z. Like, there's so much more to it, and that's where I think COD as an esport struggles, because it's not as like clear cut. It's not as like, watch a fighting game, you're like, well, he got health bars, he's amazing at doing the combos, or like he's really good at spacing and his execution's on point. He won, or like in CS:GO, where it's like round based, there's a lot at play, there's real strategy involved. Like Call of Duty, it gets lost in the water sometimes, like in the mud. So we've got a really tough job of making sure that the viewer gets it, and even like the sort of intermediate player gets it. But tell you what, we deal with a lot of idiots on Twitter. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
it's good fun. I try not to get involved too much, but it's tricky.
I mean, as we were saying earlier about like kind of the knowledge of COD, I can imagine that casting does require a lot of game knowledge. Do you personally have a routine with new titles at release in which you learn kind of fundamentals and niche detail that others may overlook to give you a more diverse catalogue of vocabulary when casting?
Yeah, man. So like, again, and it goes back to the idea that you have to know the game to commentate. So like, when the game first comes out, I'll grind the fuck out of it. Like, and this was the first game that I really got to get. Well, actually, no, Black Ops 4 was. Black Ops 4 was one of the first games that I really got to spend a lot of time on, like, genuinely, because it was the first time where I was full time. So before I was full time talent for MLG, I worked in corporate IT in Australia. Like, I had a full IT job. Like, I was 9 to 5, and after that I was trying to do comedy, and it wasn't always working. And at the same time, I've still got my wife, or my girlfriend at the time, so I really had to balance all that shit out. Now this is my full-time job. I'm like, right, I'm in the playlist, I'm playing ranked, I'm playing Blackout, I'm playing Warzone, whatever, like, and I can grind it out. So I do think at the start of the game, the grind is super, super important. I think learning everything you can, learning the maps, learning the names of things, but then also translating that to like a broadcast friendly version. And then after that, when it comes to like big meta changes, it's so important to talk to the players, because there's only some. I can be like, well, with this change you think that this would happen and this would happen, but I'm not always right. And we talk about this all the time as commentators. We've got like a group chat, we're always asking each other questions and whatnot, but like at the end of the day, it's the players are the ones who really will teach you the most. So having an honest dialogue with the players is the best way to learn the game. You want to know what to look out for. You want to know what they're talking about, what pisses them off. And like right now, with all the GAs and shit going on,
I know.
I'm just like, oh, let's give them a week, and I'll talk to them later. Like it's just a headache. And I'm seeing scraps.
They're insane.
They're insane. It's nuts. So that's been tricky. That's been quite difficult to maintain. But you got to stay on top of it. You frankly have to stay on top of it.
Yeah, I agree. Rambo said something similar. When I got Rambo on there last week, before we even went live, he was like, do me a favour, let's not talk about GAs. I was like, deal. Deal. Right, got a bit of cast trivia for you again. I mean, obviously you're 1 for 1 at the moment. I'm trying to catch you out on at least one of these. So you were part of the casting team for CWR Champs 2018. But do you remember what colour shirt you wore on day 2?
2018 was World War II?
Yeah.
Yeah, 17 would have been IW, 18 was World War II. All right, so we're day 2 on Champs. I reckon. So I was wearing a shirt at World War II. There was one where I looked like a bag of minstrels, like orange and black jumper. I looked like an idiot. And then there was, I think I was wearing a white shirt with like stripes on it.
No.
Fuck. Okay. What was I wearing?
You were wearing like a navy blue shirt, just a blue
blue shirt. Yeah. What a boring twat. No right over here. Boring.
Boring. Yes. I always feel good when I catch someone. That's fine. Lovely. I'm good now for the rest of the podcast. I got you on one, so that's fine. Yeah. So, I mean, considering the success that you're seeing within casting in your world, what do you feel have been the key and most important traits to your personality to make you a successful esports commentator or host? I mean, outside of game knowledge and things like that.
Yeah. All right. Cool. I'm gonna rub myself for a bit here, but the things you don't get told when it comes to working in this kind of job, the things that no one really talks about ever, and I suppose I learned this from my media family. You have to be easy to work with, and being
Yeah,
easy
I
to
can
work with
imagine.
doesn't mean you're saying yes to everything. It means not being a dickhead. Basically, it
Yeah,
means not being a twat in the green room. Like the green room is where we sit before the game start, or we sit while we're
yeah,
waiting for stuff. And it's like being someone who is easy to be around to, who is helpful, supportive of your teammates, and all that stuff. Like that
mm,
makes a massive, massive difference.
yeah,
And maybe it's because of the media background, or like my improv training. Like when you're up there on stage and you don't know what's going on, the person to your left and right, like they are your battle brothers and sisters. They are the people you are going to rely on to make sure that you don't end up looking like an idiot, and therefore no one looks like an idiot. So I've always had this continual thing, and I saw Frostgrin talk about this recently on Twitter. If you make your co-workers look good, you will look good. Everyone looks good. The broadcast looks good. So at that point in time, like the theory for me is always, this is one of the most competitive jobs in the world. To get the job is incredibly hard, as a lot
yeah,
of people who've tried know. And it's not always up to
yeah,
you. It's not like you can't even pretend to think that like I'm going to make this happen. I know exactly what I need to
yeah,
do. You don't. There's a million things that go wrong. So when it's competitive to get the job, but when you've got the job, cooperate,
mm-hmm.
help each other out. If
Yeah,
someone's struggling, if someone's a bit quiet, if they feel a bit left out, help them out. Because on broadcast, you can tell when something's off. You can tell when like the
yeah,
chemistry
yeah,
isn't
yeah,
real. You can tell when I don't like someone. Like and when they don't like you, you can just feel it, and it makes
yeah,
everyone uncomfortable. At the end of the day, it's such a weirdly intimate job. So when someone or something is wrong, try to help them out.
yeah,
Don't
yeah,
be
yeah.
a twat. And this is advice for anyone in any job. If people don't want to work with you, you'll probably get fired. You
Mm,
probably won't have that job for very long.
mm-hmm.
And that, I think that's just don't be a dick is the easiest way to sum it up. And
Yeah,
but again, like having honest conversations and all that, it's not easy to do. It's very easy to offend people. There's a lot of fragile egos in this space. It just happens. It just happens, and it's not. Again, it's a very much an imperfect science to get in the job, but when you get it, help each other out. That's all I ask.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
that and
mean,
that may help me keep the jobs, and it's got me tons of jobs so far. Every single time the phone rings and it's like, "Hey, can you do this? I heard you're great fun to work with." I'm like, "You're not wrong." I put a lot of effort into
yeah,
not being a dick.
yeah.
But yeah, it's something I think is a really good piece of advice in general.
Awesome. I mean, considering you've presented or casted titles, CS:GO, Overwatch, COD, and so on, do you ever find yourself using lingo or game-related language on the wrong titles whilst casting? Have you ever been close to a little slip up here and there? I mean, I'm assuming there's some similarities between different titles and games that could
Oh
possibly
yeah,
trip you up here and there.
yeah. Like I when I first worked COD, I couldn't help call the hard point the hill, King of the Hill.
Yeah, yeah,
And someone came in my chat the other day, like I was playing Halo 3, it's just released, and they were like, "Oh, is this like hard points?" And I was like, "Yeah, listen here, mate. This is King of the Hill. Like King of the Hill is like hard points. Like, come
yeah,
on." But yeah, the lines do blur a lot of the time, and we do end up saying the wrong stuff every now and then. And your vocabulary is your they're your bullets as a commentator, and you've got
yeah,
to have a full mag. You've got to make sure you're shooting the right stuff, you land on the right
yeah,
targets, because otherwise the folks don't know what's going on, or you just sound like an idiot.
yeah,
And it's a very difficult thing to do, especially when you have to say 18,500 words in a series. You got
yeah.
to you got to try to hit those shots.
No, I agree. I mean, what do you personally feel you do as a caster that isn't necessary that you might do that others don't, for example, to kind of excel you above?
Everyone's always on about Miles's wordplay, and I love doing that. I love it. I've got this sort of weird brain for references or wordplay. Like, I love pop culture. I love movies, music,
Yeah,
film,
yeah.
television, you name it, like what, all of it. And I love to bring that in there. And the reason why I do that, and this is it, I'm going to get real wanky here. I'm going to go all
That's
in.
all right, go in.
I believe that like when you're watching something for the first time, you want to relate to people. If you hear something, you want to relate to people. You want to
Yeah,
have a connection
yeah,
in some way. So when I'm casting a series, I'm like, oh, this is like that bit from Lord of the Rings where Gandalf comes over the hill and saves them in Helm's Deep. Oh, yeah. And someone goes, I love Lord of the Rings. Oh, Gandalf, what a legend. That means it's silly. Easy Gandalf now. Oh, there you go. And you create those little links, those
yeah,
little
yeah,
like threads between that thing. And then you create that with me and therefore the product. And I'm
yeah,
like, I just want people to keep going, like just creating those little mental and sort of like emotional connections and stuff. And I feel like that kind of thing, it brings you closer to something. It brings you closer to whatever you're talking about. And I think I've always tried to do that. I want people not just to go, oh, this is a wicked game because everyone's really good at the game. I want people to feel that this is a really good game through these like emotional connections, and just trying to remind people this is like that, or this is like whatever. But like, I really do. I feel like, again, this is way more than just a game. And to me, it's way more than just a game. It's changed my life.
Yeah.
It's changed a lot of lives. You know, it's just probably changed the lives of people watching this. Like, everyone is touched by this more. It's never just you sat in your bedroom playing COD. No. You're with your friends. It means so much to all of us. So, yeah, man, like trying to make it more, trying to feel it more through the language I use has always been one of my goals. Yeah.
Awesome. I like it.
Cheers, bro.
So naturally, in the world of technology, I mean, we were speaking about this just a little before we went live. You know, you were casting today. There was some issues, etc., that kind of slowed down the process. And as we know, things can go wrong quite often. We see stoppages within tournaments due to issues of controllers, monitors, or something stream related, etc. Now, as a caster, is there a structure you put in place with a consideration that this may happen? And how important is it to remain relaxed and keep the viewer engrossed during that period?
I think you got to keep the viewer relaxed, but you've also got to be honest, right? Yeah. So when, let's say, I can't remember the last like massive technical issue I was a part of, but like, actually in London, at the London event, there was something going on, and me and Phil had to fill for like, God, I want to say it was like 40 minutes, because I remember like 3 or 4 different people coming up to us being like, "Are you okay? Do you need anything?" And we were like putting Maven masks on, and like we were showing all sorts of different shit on the broadcast. We were talking to the crowd for a while, like. We were really, at one point, like I was playing with like Merc's box, because Joe's a lot shorter than Clint. Yeah. So I put the box under me, and I stood up, and I was like that much taller than Phil, and I was like, this is some behind the scenes shit. Let's get it.
Wait, he stands in a box?
He stands on a massive box. Merc is on a box that is about 6 inches, about that big, right? Goes on a box. Not kidding, goes on a box. And at the London event, you can go back through the VOD. I get the box, and I show it to the camera, and I was like, that's the truth. And I stand on it, and we come back from the break, and I'm massive, and I'm like, oh, hello. Yeah, Joe, he's not a big dude. Clint's massive. We've got to get him up there.
He's like 6'4". He's like 6'4", surely. I'm sure Clint's like 6'4".
He's 6'2". I'm 6 foot or 6'1". I'm on that.
I'm 6'3", and he was definitely a bit taller than me.
Yeah, that's a big boy, man. Big Maven. So yeah, like being able to do that. So always going back to like, obviously the audience, but being authentic. The audience knows that some shit's going on, and they want the fucking game. Like we want the game as well. It's like we're here for a reason. We're all raring up, good to go. Yeah. And then something goes wrong. Shit goes wrong all the time. And I think the best thing to do is to be honest. Be like, something's wrong. Sorry. Yeah. Be comfortable. We'll make a ton of noise when it's back. Whether that's through tweets, whatever. But it is annoying. It is a difficult thing. But like, games are so complicated now. Like, our setup is complicated. Astro headsets. You know, the networking of a LAN event, all of the stage, the light, the sound, the crowd, our work, the broadcast, you name it. Every single element of the show has 1,000 pieces that can go wrong. Yeah. And it's testament to like the amount of people, great professionals we work with, who can make that shit work. Like, I can come back from a break here, or right now, like all we've got to worry about is like my mic, your mic, our video feeds going out to Twitch. You know, you're recording it, whatever. Yeah. If you just like blow that up to so many people, so many problems can happen, and to see how quickly they can turn that thing around while keeping everyone happy and whatnot is really, really difficult. But like, geez, it is fucking hard. And and at times for a lot of people, it's like, okay, you've got to fill for 20 minutes now, go. You know, if somebody told you you've got 20 minutes now to keep all these people on their seats and keep them having a good time, what are you going to do? It's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do. And that's where improv really comes in, because you're like, you just sort of shut my brain off for a minute and look around me and go, well, what have we got? And I'm like, well, here we go. I've got a makeup brush here. So I'm like, well, let me just show you how I do this. Now I'm going to be applying makeup quite liberally. And if that doesn't work, I'm like, well, when the makeup...
I've got a question here. Sorry, why is there a makeup brush? Why is there a makeup brush?
Oh, because we work from home now, brother. I don't look this good normally, you know. But that's the thing, is like, you just sort of look around, you know, try to like clear my brain out and just be like, right, what have we got? Like let's got my phone. I'll bring up a funny image of my phone or whatever. We'll do that. You know, whatever you've got. You just have to keep the audience engaged, let them know that you're also bored out of your mind and you don't want this to happen. Yeah. But again, honesty, that truth, that connection. Mm-hmm. We're both in the same boat here, friends. It's not easy, though. It's definitely not easy. And some people, I've seen what it happens when someone's filling and they're kind of just like, they're on camera like this and they're kind of going, well, as you can tell, there's a technical break, and we think we might have a video, and it starts to get a bit awkward. And when you, the presenter, is awkward, everyone at home's like, oh, you can feel it. It's horrible. So trying to remain calm, keep that composure, let everyone know that like we know shit's broken, but it's okay.
Yeah,
it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
We're all gonna be fine.
Yeah. You sounded a little. I don't know if you watched Superbad, but you gave me a flashback of McLovin there, just when you. That was really funny. Right, you're 1 for 2 on trivia, so it's your chance to go 2 for 3. You casted the game in which Optic were knocked out of COD Champs in 2018, but do you remember the team that knocked them out and what the score was?
Oh, the score, I think it was 3-1, but it was EG. It was 2017? Yeah.
2018.
World War II. 2018, World War II. It was EG, it was Aches, and they went on to win the whole thing, which was unbelievable. Yeah. Who saw that shit coming? Not me. I think it was 3. Oh no, it was CTF, so it would have been 3-0, right? 3-1? 3-1. I'm looking at your face.
You're going 3-1 there. You're going 3-1.
Yeah. Or was it CTF? Shit.
I'm going to push for a final answer here.
3-0. Go.
3-0.
Yeah.
Bang on. Fuck!
It was CTF. It was Ardennes Forest CTF. Great Wall throughout history.
When you said 3-1, I was like, fucking yes.
Berlin. Yeah, it was a tough one, but that was a good moment. And I must admit that year was real rough for Optics. So I was running out of stuff to say about Green Walls going down.
Yeah.
I was running out, and I thought I saved the Berlin Hadrian's Great Walls throughout history, and you can add the Green Wall to that one. After gaming would be eliminated from champs. I got so many tweets, so fucking many tweets from fans and from Optic fans and from fans of EG, or people just didn't like Optic. Most of them saying that was a great call, but the Optic fans were just like, "You did this." You did this to us. And I'm like, I'm a bystander, mate. And I still get that to this day. To this day, they're still like, I'll never forget it. You did this.
You were the sledgehammer. You were the one that started to knock them through.
I came in like a wrecking ball.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. I mean, I learned today, not to my surprise, that you previously, we spoke about it already, you've previously dabbled in comedy, performing stand-up and so on. And talking about how this world of comedy and improv and things like that and vice versa has given you this great ability with casting and presenting. Now, outside of casting and doing this, obviously you said you never saw yourself becoming a caster. Was your ultimate goal to be a comedian? And if not, let's say casting was to not be around in 5 years' time, and you were to go down a new avenue, where would you be? Where would you like to go and chase next?
That's a really, really difficult question. I think now, at this point in my life, I could now say, well, I could always go towards television, or I could go towards, like internet presenting for whatever. Like, a lot of my friends are like freelance presenters, and they do a really, really good job of finding work and still doing what they're doing, whether it's like selling products. Like I've done like adverts for Huawei where I've like sold their phones and shit. Like I've done stuff. But I think I never saw myself becoming a commentator. Like I started commentary when it wasn't a job. This was like pre the blow up of COD. This is like way before Black Ops 2. So like I was just doing it because it was fun. And that has always been my life's goal, is just follow the fun, follow the thing that you enjoy doing. And comedy was obviously that for a little bit. Like it's terrible, it's stressful as hell. Like it's not easy to do. When you bomb, it's agony, but when it's great, it's worth it. I just think because I don't know what I wanted to be as a kid. I think I did want to be a comedian, but like I can't lie, it was always at school. Like my uncle was a very famous, for the American viewers, he's a very, very famous British television presenter and host. He's basically like, he was the David Letterman of the UK for almost all our lives, still going probably. And living in the sort of shadow of Jonathan Ross is a weird thing. I love him dearly. He's a fucking wonderful uncle to have, but when you go to school, when I go do anything for a really long period of time, it was, you're his nephew. That's you. That's what defines you. And they were like, you're going to be I can see you doing what he does. And it's always like, you live in that shadow and those expectations for a really long time. Yeah. And, that's not a bad thing. I'm not going to lie. I used it to get ladies and it always worked out. His Halloween parties with it. I can't lie. But, as in terms of like having almost like your path laid out before you that you may not necessarily want, is a really tricky thing. And I think a lot of people can identify with that, whether it's like dad wants you to take up the business, or like other people are like, you've got to do this, you've got to become a doctor, you've got to become a lawyer, you've got to do that, you've got to get yourself a job and all this sort of, like, it's hard. It's like, let me fucking figure out my own life. And that pressure comes from all over the place. So I definitely wouldn't have ever gone, I know I'm going to do exactly that. And in a weird way, I almost am. But the thing I'm proud of is the fact that like I did it my way without leaning on any of that. I've just got it done.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, that's been a cool thing. That's been a really cool thing. And where do I see myself in 5 years? Maybe doing this. You know, we'll see. Like, I'm 31. Maven's like mid-30s. He's one of the older guys in the scene. We still love Clint. I love Clint. And at some point, someone's going to go, get this old wrinkly ball bag off my screen. Like, Maven's going to look like a scrotum at some point. He's going to be all wrinkly. At what point? At some point, they're going to go, we're done, mate. You're not it anymore. And then we'll move from there. But like, until that day comes, I'm going to keep trying to do this, keep having a good time, as long as the fans are enjoying it, as long as the games are good, as long as I enjoy it. You know, that's another thing. You know, as much as I do always feel like the product, like commentating, is a service to the fans. It's about you. It's about you, the listener, the viewer, the engaging fan. If you're enjoying it, sweet. If you're still having a good time, good. If you're not, then I've got to rethink what I'm doing. You know, that's ultimately
indeed.
We live and die by the fans.
I think with Maven, I think he's got a long time left. I think every year they just need to apply another layer of foundation, really, and it'll be all right. Do you know what I mean? He's got a natural glow, so...
He's good, man. He's going to keep eating his tacos and he's going to be on his Peloton bike. He's good. Maven will live forever. He'll live forever. He'll be like Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah. I mean, this year's Call of Duty has received a lot of criticism from both pro amateur community, etc., etc. But we've recently seen the likes of Merck openly say that he has no idea what's happening, literally on cast. Is there a level of frustration when spectating a cast in this game versus other COD titles and games in general that you've casted?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, this has been a weird one for us in a lot of ways. And while I feel like a lot of amazing good has come with the Call of Duty League, one of the things we're definitely struggling with right now is the way spawns work in this game. Like, there's no doubt about it. I've started calling them the Spawns Ferry. When you hear the Spawns Ferry mentioned, it means that some shit's just appeared and, you know, somebody got blessed and someone's just lost the map. You know, it is what it is and there's nothing we can do about it. And it is just a new way it works in this game. And that's, again, it's one of the things that COD has. COD changes every year. It's a different dev. It's a different game engine or whatever it may be. I've just got to deal with it. And sometimes it's very painful. And I see pros really outspoken about it. And it's a weird one because, again, this year, because of the runaway success of Warzone, we're not getting as much attention on the multiplayer side of the game.
Definitely not.
Yeah, and I there's no secret that that's the case, and I think that is the case. And I don't blame Infinity Ward for not doing it. If I,
neither do I.
You know, I don't know. I can't even think of a good sort of way of describing it. Like, if I've got a stick back, why would I work on my ass? It's already good. It's
as simple as this. If I'm trying to run a bath and one tap is dripping but the other one is flowing, which one I'm going to get a bath? I'm going to use the one that flows. Yeah, I'm not going to sit and wait for the one that drips. I'll use the one that flows. So I'm not
when you've got a limited amount of resources, a limited amount of staff available to do this, and like everyone does assume that like, oh, this company's got so much money, there must be like a million little developer elves that can make this shit work. I have no idea, but there clearly isn't. Like, you know, if there were, maybe it'd be fine. But like, it all costs money, it all costs time, it all costs energy, and believe me, I've put forward emails to like the right people about like, hey, can we get blueprints in the CDL playlist so I can run around with my champ skin? Like, and someone will be like, we'll pass that on to the right people, and I'm like, cheers, thanks. May or may not happen. I don't know. If you get Joe Seacott on Twitter, if you get, you know, David McKinnon on Twitter and you manage to catch them, I'm like, hey, can you do this? Can you change that? It's tricky. It's really difficult, you know. Can you imagine what their Twitter feeds are like? Can you imagine what their mentions are like?
Joe Seacott put out a really sarcastic tweet as to that. In response to someone from the amateur scene. I think his name was Frizz, and Frizz tweeted something along the lines of great game at Joe Seacott. And he put back, thanks a lot, with loads of smiley emojis and all this and that. Just really rubbing it in. I thought, wow, great way to handle it, to be fair.
I mean, what can you do? That's a lot of toxicity, man. You've got to just laugh it off and be like, well, we're doing the best job we possibly can. Sorry that your thing isn't good enough. Sorry. It's hard, man. It's hard.
It is. At the end of the day, you know, ultimately right now, Warzone is... that it's making a shit ton of money. It's making a shit ton of money. Do you know what I mean? And exactly, it's very addictive. It's very good to play. It's making a lot of money. So what are they going to focus on? They're obviously going to focus on what the core players playing. You know, I think the one thing people need to remember is, like, it's the same way a business model works. You have a core customer and a marginal customer, and your core customer is the customer that shops every single week, and they come in and spend 60, 70, 80 pound every week, and a marginal is someone that comes in once a month. To me, my core customer is always more important, regardless. That marginal can pass on, but that core is what keeps me open. And it's the same way with COD, I think, in terms of the way it works and its whole fan base is ultimately the people who play Warzone are your everyday player. They're your average player. They're the people that just enjoy the game. They're not playing it for a competitive aspect, and they won't. And ultimately, comp will not see the focus that it needs to see when Warzone exists. It's as simple as that, I suppose.
It ain't happening. It ain't happening.
What has been the most exciting game to cast in general so far in your career?
Oh, the most exciting game. Oh, mate, it could honestly be. World War II had its moments, right? Like when I look back at old clips of World War II, because it felt like Time to Kill was fast in that game. Like watching the old broadcast, like folks were getting ripped apart by that PPSH. Like it was nuts. When I think back to like really, really exciting games, like I feel, and this is a bit of a, obviously Black Ops 3 was amazing. Specialists, you know, they made a lot of really exciting moments happen. Like, and I think back about Infinite Warfare. Infinite Warfare was a blast to watch, man. FTL plays, like the glitch plays, the rewind plays, like all that sort of stuff. Camo, like, yeah, from a competitive standpoint, you're a bit like, what do you mean he's invisible? Like, what do you mean he's on the flank and he's invisible? What are you talking about? Like, that's bullshit. But at the same time, when I'm watching Gunless, I'm watching that little thing fill up. I'm like, Gunless or camo, here we go. There's a 3-piece. Back when the 3-piece was a massive deal because you're playing 4v4.
Yeah.
That was honestly like, that was lit. Like, that was so exciting. Holy shit. That was so exciting.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Sorry, mate.
You should probably deal with that.
Yeah, Joey, thank you very much, my friend. I'm sorry, mate, but for the interest of conversation and flow, I'm going to continue.
Yeah, so I think honestly, those games are really, really exciting to watch. And I've got no idea what to expect for next year. I actually haven't seen the game. I've got no idea. I'm hearing a lot of stuff. But I'm very, very, very hopeful that like we get something along the lines of like, I enjoyed specialists. I enjoyed watching like the payload abilities. I really did. Like even in Black Ops 4, you know, there were those moments where you could have something special happen that was like you build up to that one. And also the same with kill streaks as well. I miss kill streaks, mate. I really do. I've talked for no end about how I wish we just had fucking cruise missiles in this game, but whatever.
Indeed. No, I agree.
Deal with that later.
Yeah. And off the back of the game, what has been the most exciting event to cast?
I think without a shadow of a doubt, maybe that first London event, it was so special. Right? Because it was the first event I'd really worked in London, getting to fly home and see my parents, and my parents being in the crowd, like alongside, you know, the fans and being like, "This is nuts!" Like we were casting 100 Thieves versus shit, I can't remember who it was now. It was that winners bracket matchup. Was to get 100 Thieves to the final. I think it might have been. No, it wasn't FaZe. I can't remember who it was. It might have been United. Maybe it was a good game though, and it was like 100 Thieves managed to get it done. And I remember screaming like "Destiny arrives," and I just like looked up, and my parents were there, and both like, way, and it was just this lovely moment of like, oh, mum and dad have seen it now. They've seen it once, they don't have to do it again. But it was really, really cool. And again, that was such a memorable event for so many reasons, like the FaZe LG match with the tie on control, which was just ridiculous. Like so much good stuff and like so many good memories, and it's just like this crazy excitement around it. I mean, that was one of the most amazing events I've ever been at in my entire life. Amazing.
I always think about when Tommy asked the crowd, what do we think?
Unreal, unprompted. We had no idea he was going to do that.
I can tell,
and you'll bet that someone got in trouble for that.
100%.
It was great.
I had Tommy on the podcast and I asked him about it. He was like, "Mate, don't talk to me about that." He's like, "I can't fucking talk about that." I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, it was a really good event, man. It was special. And not to mention the fact that like we were chatting shit to another game across the planet at the same time. We were chatting shit to CSGO. Yeah. Because the Sydney IEM event was taking place at the same time. Yeah. And they were shouting like, oh, fuck off Overwatch or something like that. Like something, it was like, shut up Overwatch, because their event was next door. And then this lot of like weird Blizzard Activision family, we were saying CSGO are wankers, and that video made it to them, and then they were saying like Call of Duty or whatever. It was just so great. It was like, this is, you know, and I was getting like, I got like a DM from Henry G or something saying like, it was like, you need to calm your boys down. Yeah. We're about to crush you or something. I was like, oh, it was really nice. It was a tweet or a DM or something. It was really like amazing moment just in terms of like the internet, you know, keeping us all together in Sweden. The world felt a lot smaller that day. It felt a lot smaller. Yeah.
The IEM's a really big event as well, isn't it? Usually.
Massive event. Yeah, massive.
I think it's like 5,000 plus, isn't it? Usually crowd-wise. Am I
the
right?
Sydney one, I think last year it was either 5,000 or 7. I think we maxed out at 7, but not last year, the year before, because I did 2 of them. The first 2.
Well, I've got a trivia question around that. So yeah,
Oh, here we go.
Go on.
No, it was just they were good events. They were nuts, and
Yeah.
I've got some mental stories from those events because I had this special job, which almost became my full-time job before joining the CWL,
Oh, wow.
which was like being the sort of like crowd hype man for those CS:GO events, and I would have traveled the world with them, done all the IMs with them, and it would have been pretty fun. But basically, I made the role for myself. Where like we had an ad break, and I said to Carmack, the guy running the whole show, I was like, "Hey man, the crowd are nuts out there. Just before we come back from an ad break, can I go outside and just like fluff them, get them going?" And he was like, yeah, okay. So he gave me the house mic and I ran outside and I was like, Sydney, you freaking animals. Because I could say whatever I wanted because there was no cameras or anything. Or there's no, it wasn't going out to show. So I really got them going. I was doing like questions and trivia with them. I was just taking the piss because they're all drunk and having a great time.
Yeah.
So I went up to a kid and I was like, who? I was like, in 2015, who famously said that slavery was a, what did Kanye West say? Slavery was a choice. And I was like, what a twat, firstly for saying that. But I was like, who famously said that? Was it Henry G? Was it someone else? Or was it Kanye West? And this poor bloke in the crowd was like, Henry G? I was like, oh no. But I was like, no, he definitely didn't. But here's a hard drive. Good on you, mate. Right. Game's coming back on 3, go nuts. It was just, we had a lot of fun. And again, the crowd were mental. Yeah. At one point, last story on this before, because I feel like, I don't know how long
mate, carry on your phone.
But, we were again, I was like in the midst of the crowd. We were like halfway through Saturday. Renegades were playing, I think it was Mouse Sport. So it was like the Australian team versus like, the enemy. And the Aussies were going insane. And they were super, super drunk. And I was in the absolute middle of this sort of like, it was like a pit at one point. The chairs were all over the place. It was getting a bit crazy. Security had to get involved. We had to kick a few folks out. People were doing shoeies, you name it. Like it was getting really rowdy. And then I remember having, I had like a fucking, like an i9 processor or whatever in my pocket, or an i7, and then a banana in my back pocket. And I remember going to this guy and asking him a question, and I can't remember what the question was, whatever, but his answer was correct. And I was like, correct, sir, you've won the grand prize, this warm banana from my back pocket. And I gave it to him because I said, you're going to get whatever's in my pocket. You ready? And I gave him this like really warm banana. And the dude, without blinking, took the banana and just, without peeling it, put it straight in his mouth and ate the whole thing, like chomped through the whole thing. And the camera was on him and the crowd was going nuts. And he ate the whole thing. He just left the stalk and he threw it on the floor. And I was just like, wow, man, you really earned this. I gave him a like £1,000 processor, and he was like, "Whoa, the fuck!" And then everyone was just going nuts. They were throwing beer everywhere and all that. Like, but the lad was an absolute hero, and I will never ever forget it. Watching a human being eat a banana without peeling it, like chewing through it. But he was obviously like 7 pints deep, and it was just nuts.
I'd have been sure he got into I'd have put him in a van on the way to a certain hospital on the way. Definitely.
It was really funny. It was really funny event.
In 2018, a bit of trivia again, with 2 out of 3.
Here we go.
You reported and presented at the Intel Extreme Masters CSGO tournament. Do you remember the 3 maps played in the final to give FaZe the win?
No, I don't. I really don't. Yes. Mostly because I definitely wasn't watching. Mostly because I think at that point I was probably up in the VIP bit with OJ, just chatting shit and enjoying the games, but I do not remember the maps. I can say Mirage, Dust, and Train. But that's about it. I don't know.
It was Cash. It was Cash, Overpass, and Train.
There you go. Well, 1 out of 3. No, I couldn't remember it. That was my first. It was my first or second CS:GO event. I didn't know anything about the game, but the commentators were amazing at helping me out. Everyone helped me out and got me involved and made sure that my questions or everything that I was doing at the event was like on point. And and I had the right, obviously, experience, but like not knowing the players, not knowing the scene, they were wicked at really helping there. So shout out the CS:GO commentators. They're all wonderful people.
Yeah, really good folks. Not too bad. That trivia, 2 for 4. That's not too bad.
Not easy, mate.
Yeah, I know.
It's not easy.
I don't like to make them easy. But easy's boring, isn't it? Well, obviously, there's been a lot of talk recently about the Momo situation, which is now allegedly seen an inclusion of Benson. And whilst I don't want to talk directly on that at all, I do want to hear your thoughts around the level of sexual harassment and assault women face within esports. What do you think needs to change to make women feel safe within these communities?
That is a really difficult question. Like, what do we have to change? Jesus, man, what do we have to change? Firstly, like the way the scene has been, and the whole esports scene has been recently. I mean, it has been devastating to read about on a daily basis, hearing about sexual assault, sexual harassment, and like in some cases, really really horrible cases of rape. It's been very, very difficult to open Twitter on a daily basis, and not just because the rest of the world is also falling apart, trying to destroy itself. Like it's been a tough time in general. And I really feel that. I feel like everyone is very, very tense. But what we can actually do, I mean, oh man, it's hard. Like, what do we do? Like, we can't strap GoPros to people's heads and make sure, we can't do the shit that people want. We just have to have more honest conversations with each other about what we're going through, or what's happened, or how something's made you feel. Like, and I know that sounds, I don't know if it sounds idealistic, but you've got to believe someone when they say something's happened first and foremost.
Yeah.
If there's evidence, there's evidence, whatever. But you have to hear people out, because you can't make a change without confronting this really ugly shit. You can't go, I'm never going to be a better husband to my wife unless she calls out the shit I do. I may not know it's shit. I may not know it's something horrible that's hurting her or whatever, but you have to be called out on it. And if you don't have those tough conversations, nothing's ever going to change. And it's really, we have to also hold ourselves accountable. If you see something, you got to say something. Like the amount of times I've seen in other cases and with other people, and this extends now to every industry.
Yeah.
Every industry now in the world is going through this. If you see something you think is wrong, or you see someone's in trouble, try to help them out. Try to give them a hand. Be very aware that this shit happens, because I think a lot of us just want to go, oh, that's not my mate, or that's not me, or whatever. But like, it fucking happens, man. And like, my mates have been raped now, and I've heard their stories, and it fucking breaks my heart. And knowing that, like, I'm not even knowing, but like the idea that you can help make that difference. Daniel Sloss, an amazing comedian, his latest show X, where he talks about this, where he's like, I could have been the hero, and I could have beaten up that pervert, that rapist, I smashed his face, and he's like, no, to really have been the hero in that moment, I could have gone to that bloke who I had an idea about, or somebody had warned me about, and just had a conversation with them, try to educate them. And that's not easy to do. What are you going to do? Go to your mate and be like, I hope you're not a rapist. No, like, it's really hard to do this. It's really, really difficult. And we just have to be honest with each other and honest with yourselves. And if you see something, if you think someone's uncomfortable, you've got to talk to each other. You've got to educate each other. And the same could be said for racism now, like the way we're handling the Black Lives Matter movement, and we have gone through, man, like so many conversations with the COD League about this as well. And like, because obviously the Minnesota event, it was close to home. Like, we did so much, and it was really, really difficult. And again, me being white as fuck, right?
Yeah.
To have to be the bloke who comes out and broadcasts first and goes, I stand, I hear this, we're an ally, we're on board with all this stuff. Like, but I didn't feel comfortable talking on behalf of an entire company when I know there are people of color, I know there are people of all different backgrounds involved here. And I was like, I don't feel like I can represent those people fairly, being beardy white bloke, right?
Yeah.
So I remember talking to as many people as I could in the short time we had, and hearing their stories and hearing how this has impacted them and hearing what their lives are like on a daily basis. And I won't name names, but like, a lot of people very, very close to the broadcast and very, very good friends. And they explained to me like the anxiety of being a person of color in America, and how difficult it is to go out on the street and like people look at you and they look at you differently because you're on the same side of the road as them, they'll cross the road, all that stuff, all the stories you've heard time and time again. When you hear it from a mate, it just gets you differently. And it's the same, and I can apply the same sort of logic to the whole Me Too movement. You got to talk to each other. You got to have these hard conversations with people. And if something's happened, you got to talk about it. You got to do what you can.
Yeah.
It's hard, man. I think this is a really, really important time we're all going through as people. Maybe COVID's made that worse because we're all stuck indoors with our own fucking crazy thoughts and all sorts going on here. But like, it's just been so important to have these conversations, to try to make this better forever for all of us.
I agree.
In so many ways, man. It's hard.
I appreciate the
question.
Answer. I appreciate
Good
the
question,
answer,
mate.
Yeah, I appreciate the answer. You've answered that very well. To be honest, it's a difficult one.
Haven't rehearsed that. Yeah. I can't lie to you. Like, it's just, but it is something we talk about a daily basis, mate. I can't lie. And it's important we don't forget about that shit as well. That's the next part. Don't forget. Just because the timeline's gone back to normal doesn't mean that this shit still isn't happening. Doesn't mean that people still aren't feeling, marginalized and that systemic racism isn't present. This shit is still happening, and we all have a very serious responsibility, especially as white folk, to try to help, to try to make this better, to bring awareness to it and all sorts. Mate, it's a mad time, but we can make a difference.
Indeed, we can. So off the back of all this recently, obviously we've seen you casting alongside Chance in the recent Subliners event. Is it difficult to change your casting partner considering the chemistry that you built over time with your previous? And is there a learning period in which you kind of get to know each other's kind of conversational preferences, whether they be gun skill related or map analysis related or statistic related and so on?
A little bit. Obviously, Chance and I worked together. Like, he was the first person. I think he was the first person I ever cast with when I came to the US. It was Black Ops 3 Champs, and I was on I think it was the Charlie stream with Chance, Fox the Don, Rondez, and Replays, Crowder. We were the four on that stream.
Yeah.
So we all like chopped and changed with each other, and it was wicked. Like, they all knew the game really well, and I was just the bloke coming in with like the dick jokes and that. But that was really fun. And honestly, Chance, like, mate, he's someone I talk to most days. Obviously, we spend a lot of time together at work. We spend a lot of time in the green room chatting to each other. And I have worked with him quite a lot in the past, so it was pretty seamless, man. I mean, we've definitely got things to work on, 100%. But in general, like I've got a lot of really positive feedback from folks, which is wonderful. And we're having a lot of fun doing it. We really, really are. Obviously, it's weird circumstances. It's not the way you want to build a partnership, but at the end of the day, we're having a good time. And I love him. He's a really, really intelligent, very dry bloke, and I fucking hope he never sees this. But he's very funny. He's very clever, and I do love working with him. Yeah, he never will ever. If this gets clipped, so help me God.
I'm personally going to go and clip it after we're done. That's brilliant. So, do you feel COD requires a high level of insight compared to other games that you've presented or casted in terms of like game knowledge, or is it maybe an easier one?
No, I think it does, especially, and again, like going back to what is most important about a broadcast is authenticity and doing a service to your audience, right? If I get on the if like, let's say back in day one, if I got on the broadcast in Black Ops 3 and I rocked up at Champs and I was just like, oh, this looks like quite cool. These guns are right, and oh, he's flying. Why is he flying? Woo. You know that I know nothing, and I feel that's a great disrespect to the people who truly love this.
Yeah,
and that was always my biggest concern, man. It's like fans, me included, we can smell that bullshit a mile away, man.
Yeah.
And especially in esports, especially people these days, the way we are on the internet, the way we are, people can sniff through shit so fast. And if you're inauthentic or if you don't know what's going on, you don't know what you're talking about, just don't bother. Like, be honest, man. Be real. Like, when I say in broadcast, like, and Merc's done the same thing, I don't know what's going on anymore because someone has spawned back yellow, Hackney Dom. I'm calling it out. It's always back yellow. Yeah. It's true because we didn't see that coming or we didn't expect that, and that honesty. And I get the occasions where like, how do you not know what's going on? You're a commentator, it's supposed to be your job. And I'm like, piss off. But at the same time, again, honesty is key, man. And I think you do need to know what's going on. And if you don't, be honest, mate. And I keep going back to that. Like when I first joined the COD scene, I knew nothing. And I told my employers that, I told the fans that. And for a long time, I continued to spew that. And it's been hard to shake the idea that Miles doesn't have a clue what's going on. But now that I'm here with Chance, like it doesn't matter anymore. I can just dick jokes all the time now.
Love it. So COVID has obviously meant COD Champs will never played online this year. What are the main noticeable differences in casting between online and LAN events?
So it's weird not doing it next to a person anymore, right? Because when the amount of, I think a lot of people don't know this, but there's so much non-verbal communication between commentators, right? So when I'm there in the zone, we're like spewing it over the game. Sometimes I'll do a little hand signal to be like, "You're up, go," for it. And they'll go from there, So it's really, really difficult. It's been really difficult in that regard. I mean, it's been wicked. Like, don't get me wrong, the COD League have sorted us out. I've got the backdrop over there, this big bastard. Hang on, I'm going to get it. No, it's a podcast in it. No visual jokes. It's a, we've got this great big backdrop. They've sent us ring lights. They've sent us new cameras. We've all had to really invest in making the home broadcast as professional as possible. So honestly, shout outs to the COD League. They've done an amazing job in trying to make that the case. Astra as well, bless them, sent these, good on them, love it. But yeah, it's been weird. The thing I miss the most, and I think everyone misses, is the crowd, man. We miss the energy of a crowd. When a big play happens, I've always had this idea that like there's three commentators. There's me and my partner, and then there's the crowd. The crowd are also selling the moment. They're also telling you what's going on. If the crowd goes nuts, I don't have to say a thing. In fact, I don't want to say anything because they're more important. They're way more important in that moment. They know what's going on. Listen to them. That excitement, that passion, that tells everyone else this was an exciting moment. This was a big deal. This meant a lot to a lot of people. Listen to that noise. Feel that. Them goosebumps. All that is real. That came from us. That was the community doing that. So that's what I miss the most. And I kind of want to joke about it every now and then where I'm like, the crowd goes wild. It's just me in my bedroom, whatever. But yeah, it's been weird, man. It's been weird. And we want this COVID shit to end as soon as possible. Not going to happen in the US for a while, sadly. I don't think so. But I just know that from everyone on the COD League side, and it goes all the way up, they've done everything. And they've spoken to the owners. They've done everything they can to try and make this work out. They've spent a lot of money, a lot of time researching and doing like, I don't know how much of this I can say. I don't know, but like they've really, really tried to create a scenario or like even theorize scenarios where we can do it online because we want to do it, right? Who wouldn't want to do it online? Even if it's just a studio broadcast, the players are sitting like far away from each other. There's hand sanitizers everywhere, whatever. We would love to be able to do that, but it's just invisible, man. It's just
it's not at all. I was talking to Rambo about it. Me and Rambo were saying how. There was a lot of speculation around, well, why don't we fly everyone in? Well, one, what? You're going to put everyone in a private jet? That's number one. Is that what we're doing? Because everyone's gonna have to use public transport otherwise, and public flights and public this and that.
Yeah,
and then number two, everyone's gonna need to land there at least a week to 10 days before the event, and they're gonna need to stay in the hotel room, not leave it, be tested the day they land, and that's it. You're stuck then. You don't leave that room. You've got no practice for 7 to 10 days. You can't scrim. You can't do anything, and then you've got to walk out that room, make sure you don't see anyone, and get into that event untouched, and then play COD. I mean, it's not plausible.
Well, the NBA is trying to do it now, I think, where they've got this like whole testing setup and all this stuff going on there, and it's all good and well. But like again, I think I can't remember who said this, but like at what point, let's say someone gets it right, someone dies, or their life gets completely ruined by it. Like, was it worth it for the show? Probably not, mate. Like, no, it's not worth it. And that's the thing right now. It's a risk. And I know everyone's got varying opinions on this shit and masks and all that, but like at the end of the day, like this is a human problem that we're all going through, and if you can't find the empathy in that to go, it's probably best they don't die. To be honest, the broadcasts have been lit. Like, we're having as much fun as we possibly can.
Yeah.
Over 100,000 viewers last event. Champs is going to be nuts. I mean, that tweet the other day I put out, I've seen some shit. We're doing some cool stuff. Yeah, it's broadcast related. There's game related stuff. It's going to be cool. Very cool. I can't wait. I'm not going to say a thing because they know where I live, but it's cool. And we know, we all get it. Like, we're fans as well. Like, the people who make the game, the people who watch the show, like, we get it. We know it's not ideal, but we're all trying. Yeah. And the amount of twats in my mentions though, they'd be like, "Oh, it's online." I'm like, "What do you want, mate? What do you want? You want to you want someone to die for this? You want to open your Twitter and like, oh fucking hell, man, Envoy died. You got COVID and no, man, you're not going to want that. God's, it won't happen. But like, you don't want that. It's not worth it. Let's let this shit bowl over. Let's get into next year and see how it goes. Take care of each other.
I agree.
Get on with it.
It's interesting you said Envoy. You must not like Envoy. Okay.
I fucking love him, mate. Fucking love him.
So I've had him on the podcast,
I really do love him though.
Yeah,
I think he's
awesome.
a really good bloke. I think he's like the next generation of like superstar, man. I really do. And I think Hex knows that as well.
He's very educated for his age, actually. Like, talking to him, he's very articulate, which is quite interesting. Yeah, I was expecting quite a smart, quite an enclosed shell, but he's very open.
For anyone wondering, by the way, I'm drinking coffee. If anyone was wondering, it's not red wine.
Oh, okay. Coffee in a glass? That's interesting.
Yeah, it's cold brew. It's not like it's not hot coffee. It's cold coffee. Anyway, go on, sorry, mate.
That's horrible. Okay. Ugh.
Twiglets, cold coffee.
Yeah,
no milk.
Lord, I'm trying to work it out.
I'm a real man. I'm just hard nails, mate.
So we're moving on to a few Twitter questions. So Brick YMY asks, "What beard oil do you use?"
Oh, mate, without a shadow of a doubt, I use it's by a company called Captain Fawcett. It's called Booze and Backy, and it smells amazing. It's like woody smell.
Yeah,
I love it, and it makes it a little shiny.
Like
all that especially in my beard oil. That was it. That was the gear I was going for, and I tweeted them, and I was like, they were having none of it. They were having none of it. I was like, "Oh, hello, I work for the Call of Duty League. I just love some bit of beard oil because I'm running low," and they were like, silence. Unreal.
I use I don't even know what I use. Well, I mean, like, these are pubes compared to that, but
you're getting there, brother. You got a good pattern up there.
I'm slowly. It's slowly. I bet look a bit. What's the word? Is it Amish?
Amish, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I looked a bit Amish as of recent, but it's slowly coming into full. I use some really cheap one I do from my local barber, but that smells a bit like.
I'm not using Tom Ford, I'm not using it's £400 for like 20 millimeters. No. It's still good though. It's very if you get have a smell, mate. It's very good. Any of the fans in London, and I tell this every time, obviously, because when you meet a lot of folks, the first thing they say, especially in London, they're like, "Can I touch your beard, Miles?" Or like, "I'll give you a touch your beard, mate." And I'm like, all right, only because you asked. Yes, come over here, and they'll touch the beard, and I always go, "Smell your fingers." And they're like, "Oh wow!" I'm like, "Yeah, it's quality, right?" Mate, you gotta respect. You gotta smell good, and if they want to be a part of it, get them involved. Have a smell of your fingers. Not every time you should do that, but
that's brilliant.
It's part of the package now,
Yeah, that's pretty good. Oh right, Kurt asks if a map is heavily one-sided. So, for example, I believe it was Twan Torture at OGLA, didn't they? 250-49 in a hard point a few weeks back. How do you keep it entertaining for viewers?
Tricky, mate. And again, you can also say Florida versus FaZe in the grand final or the finals of the Paris Home Series. That was one of the most awful blowouts I've ever seen in my life. That was like Brazil, Germany in the World Cup. That was awful. So what do you do? So what do we do is like we still try to tell the story of what's going on, right? And in some game modes, there's different, like positive sides, bad sides, good sides, whatever. So you try to stick to the framework of what you know, right? So and it's not like, oh yeah, I suppose it is. Like coalition side should start really strong and they should be winning. They should be doing that. And if they're not, then there's the storyline. It's like, oh my God, this is not how it's supposed to go. This is the other side of the coin. Oh, look what they're doing. And you start to celebrate what is happening. But it's sometimes it's really difficult. When one team is just getting flattened, you have to just be real. And we get a lot of criticism for this. Where some people are like, you're biased. You're really biased. I'm like, no shit, mate. Were you watching? What you have said, so like for example with the FaZe and Florida Mutineers game, like when Florida started taking over, we were like, well, first of all, you're like, wow, they're killing it, and then eventually like throw the towel in, FaZe are dead, like they are out. Like Priest is spraying the walls and putting unhappy faces because they're getting smacked like no one has been smacked before. Like you have to lean in, right? You've got to just, and again, you tell the truth. What's going on? They're getting fucking murdered. It's horrible, but it is what it is. I'm sorry for the language there, but it is what it is. You've got to be honest, man. And if you can tell the story, if there's like Chance and I are working on some cheeky tricks trying to make domination a bit more spicy than it is, but like there's you have to work with what's happening. You have to be really honest. You have to tell the story as it is. But if something's not going to plan to what you expect, there you go. There's your angles. So for all those like aspiring commentators out there who are like, how do I commentate over an absolute blowout? Try to find the things that are going right. Try to find the things that an expert eye or like an expert eye can see. Like if you want to go on like one-sided and not just say they're absolutely getting murdered, try to look and see what that team is really doing well and just keep applauding them, and then try to spin that story. Is it possible for Toronto to make a comeback? Is it possible for the FaZe to do something? No, it's not. But you have to sell both sides as much as you possibly can. But when the horse is dead and they're just whacking it, tell them that they're whacking it. Just call it like it is. It's over. It is over. He's already dead.
And that answer there brings us to the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me, Miles. You've given some very good insight into your world.
Cheers, man. It's a crazy world at the moment.
Been live for 90 minutes. I didn't realise. Is there anything you want to say before we close off?
Honestly, mate, thank you very much for having me. I wish you the best of luck going forward. This was a lot of fun. You're a wonderful host. It was great. And thank you for letting me tell sort of my story in a different way and having a lot of fun. And for everyone out there, treat yourselves right, take care of each other, spread some love, because there is a lot of negativity going around right now, and it's draining on all of us. But we'll get through this, folks. We will get through this. Champs is online. Deal with it.
Yeah, love it.
Deal with it.
Right, make sure you guys head over to Spotify if you've tuned in late to catch the podcast in full, and make sure you're following the socials. Just search the Bakery Podcast on Twitter and so on to catch the next guest announcements. We have got young Zinni, the chef Methods from Toronto, coming up this week at some point. Maybe Friday. If not, it should just be Monday. I'm not too sure yet. We're getting it confirmed, but I will announce on Twitter as and when I know. That's the end of the podcast, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Peace.